Hello, guys, and welcome to MindHub. Today, we're taking a look at the world's top 10 most famous paintings and the stories behind them. At number 10, we have The Creation of Adam, painted by Michelangelo around 1511. So, first, let's quickly talk about Michelangelo. Not the Ninja Turtle, of course, but the painter. So, Michelangelo was an Italian artist who was born in 1475 in the Republic of Florence. Michelangelo is widely recognized as one of the greatest artists of all time, and his most iconic work is the painting on the ceiling of the Sixtine Chapel inside the Vatican museums. Michelangelo spent 4 years painting the ceiling from 1508 to 1512, the most difficult and detailed being the creation of Adam, which, considering the complexity of it, actually only took 16 days to paint. Michelangelo was inspired by the Genesis phrase, God created man in his own image, by drawing two similar bodies, both strong and robust. On the left side is Adam, lying on the ground, and seems to be waking up, while God on the right side comes from heaven surrounded by angels. At number 9, we have Las Meninas, which basically translates to Ladies in Waiting, painted by Diego Velázquez in 1656. The painting is currently exhibited in Museo del Prado in Madrid. Diego Velázquez was a Spanish royal painter who lived from 1599 to 1660 and is considered to be one of the giants of Western art. In the last years of his career and life, he created his greatest and most iconic masterpiece, Las Meninas. Immediately by looking at the painting, we ask ourselves some questions. Are we participants in the scene? And are the figures looking at us or at their reflections in the mirror? This is simply because the painting's composition is absolutely unique, and Velázquez breaks the fourth wall only using a painting which thereto is a bit atypical to his otherwise royal style of painting. It's also important to note that even though the royal couple is seen in the mirror, Las Meninas isn't a royal painting, but rather a behind-the-scenes look at a Spanish court. The painting even includes Velázquez himself, which exemplifies his courageous painting style, since it's pretty bold to paint yourself next to the royal family. At number 8, we have The Birth of Venus, painted by Sandro Botticelli at the height of the Renaissance in 1485. It's currently displayed at the Uffizi in Florence. Sandro Botticelli was an Italian painter who lived almost his whole life in Florence, and after returning thereto in 1478, after spending a short time in Rome, Botticelli reached his creative peak, which amongst others resulted in the creation of The Birth of Venus. In Roman mythology, Venus was conceived when the Titan, Cronus, castrated his father, the god Uranus, whose severed genitals fertilized the sea. Birth of Venus depicts the moment described by the Roman poet Ovid when, having emerged from the sea in a shell, Venus lands in Paphos in Cyprus. The Birth of Venus makes the list for two primary reasons. Firstly, it was the first Tuscan painting on canvas versus wood, and secondly, it was the first secular painting to incorporate nudity. Priorly, solely religious paintings had used nudity to depict the sin of Eve. And lastly, the painting is simply majestic. I mean, just look at it. At number 7, we have Girl with a Pearl Earring, painted by Johannes Vermeer in 1665, currently on display at the Mauritshuis in Hague in the Netherlands. Johannes Vermeer was a Dutch painter who began his career in the early 1650s by painting large-scale biblical and mythological scenes, but most of his later and more famous works usually depicts scenes of daily life. Girl with a Pearl Earring is sort of both. It is not a portrait, but a trony, a painting of an imaginary figure. Tronies depict a certain type of character, in this case a girl in an exotic dress wearing an oriental turban and an improbably large pearl in her ear. Johannes Vermeer was the master of light. This is shown here in the softness of the girl's face and the glimmers of light on her moist lips, and of course, the shining pearl. The light also immediately makes sure that the girl gets the viewer's attention. Her expression, coupled with her mysterious agenda, lays the foundation for an intriguing painting. At number 6, we find The Kiss, painted by Gustav Klimt in 1907, currently displayed at Vienna's Austrian Gallery. Klimt himself was born in Vienna in 1862 to a lower class family, and at the young age of 14 in 1876, Klimt was awarded a scholarship to the Vienna School of Arts and Crafts, where he studied until 1883. Along with his art, Klimt is famous for the phrase, all art is erotic, which itself is relevant when looking at The Kiss, mostly because the post Victorian society of the early 1900s heavily perceived The Kiss as pornographic, even though both characters are fully dressed. Later scholars have perceived The Kiss as a depiction of the unification between man and woman who merges together along with the cosmos and earth, which can be summed down to one word, love. It symbolizes love and life and almost functions as a visual poem bringing a tender consummation of a broad spectrum of love, not only including dualistic love between a couple, but also love in perspective to the cosmos. At number 5, we have Pablo Picasso's famous painting Guernica from 1937, currently on display in Madrid at the Museo Reina Sofia. Pablo Picasso was a Spanish painter who lived during the height of the Spanish Civil War, which is often seen represented in his work along with his notorious Cubist style of art. Guernica is the perfect example of both. The painting is an immediate reaction to the Nazis' bombing of the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. It shows the tragedy of war and the empty and evilness of the killing of civilians and war in general. The two most dominant elements of Guernica are the bull and the horse. Art historian Patricia Failing said, "The bull and the horse are important characters in Spanish culture. Picasso himself certainly used these characters to play many different roles over time. This had made the task of interpreting the specific meaning of the bull and the horse very tough. Their relationship is a kind of ballet that was conceived in a variety of ways throughout Picasso's career. One German officer allegedly once asked Picasso, upon seeing a photo of Guernica in his apartment, "Did you do that?" To which Picasso responded, "No, you did," underlining the historical perspective of Guernica. At number 4, we find The Scream, painted by Edvard Munch in 1893 and currently on display at the National Museum of Oslo. Munch was born in Norway in 1863, and he is one of modernity's most significant artists and served as a part of both the symbolistic and expressionistic movements of the late 19th century. Essentially, The Scream is autobiographical, an expressionistic construction based on Munch's actual experience of a scream piercing through nature while on a walk, after his two companions, seen in the background, had left him. The Scream displays this morbid experience, which has almost led the screamer to become depersonalized, on the verge of nothingness, with him losing almost every aspect of his individuality, whilst finding himself in a state of his humanness almost being obliterated. Painting serves as a raw, almost primal representation of human fear and the condition fear can put humans under, an overwhelming state in which senses and intellect become irrelevant. Now, before we go into the top 3, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you liked the video so far. And now, on to the top 3. Number 3 is The Starry Night, painted by Vincent van Gogh in 1889 and currently on display in the Modern Museum of Art, or MoMA, in New York City. Van Gogh was born in the Netherlands in 1853 and lived a turbulent life before committing suicide at the age of 37 in 1890. Van Gogh also painted The Starry Night whilst hospitalized in an asylum just a year before his eventual suicide, and whilst painting it, his mental health seemed to be getting a lot better, but he unfortunately started hallucinating once again during his painting process, which led him to incorporate some of his early career's darker colors. The painting doesn't solely depict a village during a starry night, but it's also a depiction of Van Gogh's changing and declining mental health. The painting is created from Van Gogh's view of the asylum's window, but because he wasn't allowed to paint in his room, he painted in a studio in the asylum. Therefore, the painting represents Van Gogh's memory of a starry night. Van Gogh also put paint directly from the tube onto the canvas, creating the notorious thick impasto and intense hues. At number 2, we have Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, painted from 1495 to 1498 and currently on display at Santa Maria del Grassi in Milano. It's hard to know where to start when describing Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance's most famous figure. He was an Italian painter, draftsman, sculptor, architect, and engineer whose skill and intelligence, perhaps more than that of any other figure, epitomized the Renaissance humanist ideal. His second most famous painting, yes, spoiler alert, is The Last Supper, which depicts the biblical scene of Jesus' Last Supper with his 12 disciples. The scene is a complex exploration of human emotions, mostly because it's a forward looking painting and everyone knows what's about to happen. In the scene, Jesus has just declared his forthcoming betrayal. The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me, from Matthew 26:23, which the apostles react to. Simultaneously, Jesus and Judas reach to the dish between them. It's a frozen scene with a much deeper story. And surprise, at number 1 we have Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting, the Mona Lisa, painted from 1503 to 1519 and currently displayed at the notorious Louvre in Paris. The sitter's mysterious smile and her unproven identity have made the painting a source of ongoing investigation and fascination. There has been much speculation and debate regarding the identity of the portrait's sitter. Scholars and historians have posited numerous interpretations, including that she is Lisa del Giosondo. Another theory was that the model may have been Leonardo's mother, Caterina. That interpretation was put forth by, among others, Sigmund Freud, who seemed to think that the Mona Lisa's mysterious smile emerged from a, perhaps unconscious, memory of Caterina's smile. A third and alternative suggestion was that the painting was, in fact, Leonardo's self-portrait, giving the resemblance between the sitters and the artist's facial features. But to this day, the identity of the painted woman remains unknown. The Mona Lisa also revolutionized contemporary portrait painting, and to this day remains the most notorious painting. So, there you have it, the world's top 10 most famous paintings. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.